while charge.
Oh, your time is up. Your time is up. Maklap.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, I want to declare that I'm a member of Finance, National Planning. And Mr. Speaker, I rise to put the record straight. Mr. Speaker, Finance Bill as proposed, putting the record straight, the original document, Mr. Speaker, is a creation of the National Executive. Where does these proposals come from the National Executive? Most likely, National Treasury and KRA. When it is committed to this House, Mr. Speaker, it is the honors of members of Parliament as representatives of the people of Kenya to now interrogate, and that is why there is existence of executive and Parliament, because Parliament represents the people of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, when a law is passed in this House, it does not affect people who voted for Azimio or who voted for Kenya Kwanza. It affects the people of Kenya across board, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have moved from the original bill, Mr. Speaker, because if we were to vote on this original bill, Mr. Speaker, all of us in this House, including members of Finance, could have voted to draw away this bill, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, our Constitution gave us separation of powers. Separation of powers, Mr. Speaker, here Parliament will now be able to sort out and protect the people of Kenya from the excesses of the executive, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, putting the record straight is that finance bill has been there even when I was very young. I could watch Parliament where a minister come and say, beginning midnight tonight, this is going to change. That was finance bill, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, when Kenyans try to us say reject finance bill, Mr. Speaker, you wonder whether in fact, our response to most of them is, which clause do you want us to reject? Mr. Speaker, our sitting down for 14 days as members of Finance Bill and listening to professionals and Kenyans was not an exercise in futility. We listened to Kenyans. And Mr. Speaker, as we listened to Kenyans, another process of the budget making process was going on. Demand, supply. Mr. Speaker, the demand in this country has continued to rise, and that's why the government is coming with a proposal of a budget of 4.0 trillion, Mr. Speaker. When these proposals were brought to this House, Mr. Speaker, just using the words of Junaid Mohammed, most of the members across board in this particular House, Mr. Speaker, rose to say, this is the best budget because it adds us money to constituencies, because it pays for the JSS teachers' confirmation. They actually gave rise in this House to support all the budgetary proposals in this House, Mr. Speaker. When it came to the supply, Mr. Speaker, where do we get the money to supply the demand? We get through ordinary revenues, Mr. Speaker. When you add, it will rise to 2.7 trillion, Mr. Speaker. And we have a budget of 4. How do we fix the demand for employment, for roads, for infrastructure, for electricity? How do we fix the demand that is facing the people of Kenya? We fix by ensuring that there is enough supply, and this supply should not be a supply that is going to fix the people of Kenya. So, Speaker, and that is why the committee listened to Kenyans and said, bread, VAT, remove. Fixing this supply is not good. The motor vehicle tax, this tax is not good. We repealed a lot of sections, we amended a lot of sections that we felt it was punitive to the people of Kenya. And ensure that whatever report that we brought to this House, Mr. Speaker, is a report that is going to give a fair tax regime for the people of Kenya so that we can be able to...
Time up, Martin Owino. Time up.
I appreciate the time. As a representative of the great people of the constituency, Mr. Speaker, and by extension the whole country who are suffering under the yoke of the bill of Financial Bill 2023, I stand to oppose this bill. Mr. Speaker, the effect of 2023 bill, financial bill, is still weighing on our people. I'm not sure where my colleagues represent, but in my constituency, some kids, even as we brag of the price of unga gone down, are going to bed hungry and up to school the same way. Mr. Speaker, the dropouts from schools, because parents cannot afford the fee or the tuition, has gone up. Mr. Speaker, this has gone into even mental problems. Mr. Speaker, the statistic today says 1 in 4 in this country are suffering mental health. It's only that they have not reached the manifestation stage. So colleagues, even as we are here, 1 in 4 may be brewing up for mental disease. Joblessness is up, full of frustrations, poverty and disease, which at independence we said we are going to eradicate, is up. But more importantly, Mr. Speaker, what we are observing across the communities, however we gloss over it, is the crude death rate. People just dropping dead onto the morgue has become rampant because we are overburdening Kenyans with taxes. Mr. Speaker, the problem is not that Kenyans are not paying taxes. No. The problem is that the government is lavishly spending beyond their means. And at one point, and I was very happy to hear, that the Kenya Kwanza government is going to cut the coat according to the size of the clothing. Where that went, we don't know. But what we do know, if you want more, tax less. This is across the globe. That's how you stimulate the economy. But the idea that Kenyans are not paying enough tax, and now if this bill does not pass, then there will be nothing, no development, is falsy. Because Kenyans are overtaxed. The problem is, if you're listening to me, what other countries have done is what we call ITC, Innovation Tax Compliance, which has 3 pillars. Pillar number 1, you have to develop trust between tax administrators and taxpayers. And that is where we have to eliminate wastage, theft, and direct wrong utilization of funds. Pillar number 2 is a task enforcement. We have to invest in that so that we seal all the tax evaders. We'll collect more taxes than adding taxes to Kenyans. Number 3, which is very important, is facilitation. The mechanization of those taxes is very important. But for you to come and tell us that you are now proposing to remove bread, edible oil, mobile, motor vehicle, sugar transportation, diapers, you're the ones who collected the views of the people. Why didn't you put it in the bill? You are cheating. And Kenyans are listening. Those kids are more informed. By the way, don't say they are misled. If you say they are misled, you're the one who is lost. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mayor Maingi.
Me this chance to contribute to this very important bill. Mr. Speaker, when we discovered the internet, it was to change the way we communicate and the way we do business. It is unfortunate that some of us are using the same social handles to mislead a gullible public, and others are also using it to incite members of parliament. Mr. Speaker, I want
Are you stuck?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Allow me to inform my colleagues, those might not have read the Committee on Finance report and the Bill of Finance. Mr. Speaker, I want to laud the Committee on Finance for listening to Kenyans and agreeing to drop the contentious issues, and I want to read them one by one. Number one, 16% VAT on bread will be removed. Number two, excise duty on vegetable oil will be removed. VAT on transportation of sugar removed. 2.5% on motor vehicle tax removed. No increase on taxation on mobile money transfer. VAT on financial services and foreign exchange transactions has also been removed. Eco levy on locally manufactured products like sanitary towels, diapers, phones, computers, tires, and motorcycles is also removed. VAT registration threshold increased from 5 million to 8 million, reducing the need for small businesses to register. Responsibility of electronic invoicing, e-teams, by KRA removed for farmers and small-scale businesses with a turnover of below 1 million shillings. Excise duty on alcoholic beverages will be based on alcohol content, not volume. Higher alcohol content will attract more duty. Pension schemes exemption increased from 20,000 shillings to 30,000 shillings per month. Excise duty imposed only on imported finished products. Mr. Speaker, I want to take this chance to speak to three issues. I want to speak to the issue of pensions and the issue of excise duty levied on finished products and the issue of VAT on bread. Mr. Speaker, with pensions tax relief from 20,000 to 30,000, we are encouraging a savings culture in this country. We are going to encourage those that are employed to save, and that they are not going to be a burden to others when they retire, because they'll be having more money, which is tax-free. Mr. Speaker, there's no country that grows from imports. When we say that we are imposing a tariff on all the imported finished goods, we are protecting our local manufacturers. Mr. Speaker, by protecting our local manufacturers, we are saying yes to more jobs in this country, and more jobs are going to support hundreds of livelihoods in this country. Mr. Speaker, with the local manufacturers being supported, we are also going to be reviving some of those industries that collapsed that collapsed because of demand in this country. I am saying yes because I know with locally manufactured diapers, with locally manufactured sanitary pads, we are going to have, this country will see the revival of many gineries, including Moya Ginery, Mr. Speaker.
Time is up. Mule. Clerk.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to put the records very clear. From the word-go, I oppose this bill in totality. For simple reason, the committee and the Kenya Kwanza regime have hoodwinked Kenyans on the basis that they are removing VAT on bread, they are removing motor tax, and the rest. We saw what they proposed at State House. I want to put these guys on notice. There are three things which they have introduced in this bill to tax Kenyans more. The first thing they have introduced, Mr. Speaker, it is the new clause of road maintenance levy. And some of us, we are not fools anymore. Mr. Speaker, the road maintenance levy is supposed to raise an estimate of 46 billion shillings, members. The second thing they have introduced in this bill, which is more serious and more fundamental to the common mwananchi, it is the IDF. They are raising IDF from 1.5% to 2.5%, whereby they are targeting to raise an estimate of 12 billion shillings. The third thing they have put on their report and the finance bill is the railway development levy, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on those three fundamentals, they should be raising a total whooping of 88.8 billion shillings compared to what they are telling Kenyans they have removed, which is 76 billion shillings. So, the question is, when you are telling Kenyans you have removed the 16% VAT, are you not aware the wheat we use in this country to produce bread is 80% imported? Then you increase the IDF and the railway development levy, whereby it covers the 16% you are telling Kenyans you are removing. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, look at the medical imports for the common mwananchi in this country. We as a country, we produce very little drugs. Quite a number of drugs, we import 70%, Mr. Speaker, of drugs to this country. And in the morning, when Zamzang said that this bill will increase the cost of medicine in this country, you betrayed him because probably she didn't have the facts. Let me give you the facts. 70% of drugs imported in this country will be subjected to railway development levy and IDF, which you have increased, meaning that any patient who is supposed to get drugs in this country, the cost of medication goes up. What's wrong with you people? You think that we are fools? We'll tell you the way it is now and the food. Mr. Speaker, I want to say this without any fear of contradiction. The mamamboga, the boda, and the common mwananchi of this country, if we increase the fuel levy through the maintenance road and through this bill, which is 7 shillings per liter, the common mwananchi living on less than $1 will not afford his life again. Mr. Speaker, is not a rocket science. The moment you increase tax on fuel products, you have changed the livelihood of Kenyans. So, Mr. Speaker, we should not waste any more time. We need to pull and ask the committee to stop lying to Kenyans. They have removed bread, they have removed edible oil, they have removed all those things you had put on your bill. For simple reason, Mr. Speaker,
We want to call upon all Kenyans tomorrow to wake up and say no to draconia's finance bill, which is being proposed, and giving Kenyans an hope and bringing that hope in another hand called Railway Development Levy, IDF, and the 7 shillings on fuel. Please, don't fool Kenyans anymore. We'll stand with the 52 million Kenyans from tomorrow until sense comes to your mind. You cannot tax Kenyans anymore. I oppose, Mr. Speaker.
KJ, member for Dagoretti South.
Mr. Speaker, I'm grateful that I have caught the Speaker's eye finally. And Mr. Speaker, this is where the finance bill belongs. And I'm so glad that we are here debating it. Because, Mr. Speaker, we've got a lot of work to do in clearing and disabusing the misinformation that has been peddled about this finance bill, Mr. Speaker. Misinformation that is even leading our children to the streets on wrong information. Children who have been made to believe that the finance bill is a one clause, one question that will come to the House and members will vote yes or no. Each of every one of those children that I have engaged when they came to my social media asking whether I'm voting yes or no, I asked them which clause, and none of them could respond because they're just responding to what is being peddled in the media. But the finance bill belongs to the floor of this House. And Mr. Speaker, we are able now to tell the truth to Kenyans that the finance bill is what is going to allow us to be able to fund each and every single project that was listed in the budget, Mr. Speaker. But most importantly, Mr. Speaker, we will also be able to talk to Kenyans about the process that we have undertaken, the work that has been done by the Finance Committee, the committee that has engaged Kenyans so robustly that the wishes of the Kenyans have now been heard. There were antagonistic clauses, Mr. Speaker, that were offensive to some Kenyans. These clauses, Mr. Speaker, have been attended to in the right place. And there are even proposals to drop some of these offensive clauses, Mr. Speaker. It is said that a lie has speed, but the truth has endurance. Kenyans were made to believe that when we were passing the budget here is the day that we were prosecuting the finance bill. Some of them were even coming out in the streets on the day we were reading the budget because the lie was too fast, Mr. Speaker. The lies that have been peddled in media, Mr. Speaker, have been too many. But today, we have the opportunity to put the record straight that if we have a theme that we can put on this finance bill, the theme is that we have a finance bill that seeks to make Kenya not a net importer, Mr. Speaker.
Order, KJ. Yes, member for Busia County. What's the point of order? And under what standing order?
Standing Order 91. Kenyans did not lie. They went to the street, and that is what prompted the editing of what you had already put. So let us not call Kenyans liars, but true citizens who cannot allow their country to go into a brink as they watch. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I might not have the time, I hope my time has been preserved, to take the Honorable Catherine Amayo through the process of budget making in this country. That this House is not moved by external forces. This House moves in its own motion, suo motu, on matters that have to do with budgeting. That the committee was already in the process of engaging Kenyans long before a fake demonstration was organized, Mr. Speaker. And the lie persists, Mr. Speaker, because even some of the photos that we were seeing out of the streets, I can tell you as a graphic editor that they do not belong to this country. Photos were being taken off the internet and being edited and posed as Generation Z. I am a photo expert, Mr. Speaker, and I can point out to you photos that were edited to look like they were in the streets of Nairobi, but they were not. But that was not the point, Mr. Speaker. My point, Mr. Speaker, I would like to let this House know that every digital image has a digital footprint. If a photo was taken in 2020 and is being used yesterday, we can tell from the metadata of that photo, Mr. Speaker. So there is no debate about that. Mr. Speaker, the truth of the matter is that we have a finance bill that seeks to move Kenya from being a net importer so that we can have cottage industries, Mr. Speaker. We can start our own manufacturing. We can reward any Kenyan who seeks to, and preserve a minute for me, Mr. Speaker, because of the interruption. I was saying, Mr. Speaker, that this finance bill allows us to tell the truth to Kenyans. For a whole 2 months, Kenyans have been told that the economy is in dire straits. But all indicators, Mr. Speaker, are telling us that the economy is moving in the right direction. Inflation is dropping from 9% to 5%.
Time up. Time up. Time up. Dick Maungu. Order, honorable members. Merely you contributed in silence. Please accord the same silence to your colleagues.
Thank you, Speaker, for the opportunity given that I may also add my voice to this important debate. I wish to start from the word go, that I, on behalf of my
And
people of
merely you
Rwanda,
came here and told me you'll not bully any young MPs. Now you are doing exactly the opposite.
thank you, Speaker.
Go on, Maungu.
I, on behalf of the great people of Rwanda and the young generation of this country that came out yesterday to speak for themselves, I do want to say that I reject the bill. Mr. Speaker, the finance bill of 2024, just like that of 2023, has been a highly debated piece of legislation, Mr. Speaker, simply because it has been very offensive. Mr. Speaker, we'll agree that if given a glass of water and somebody drops in a drop of poison, that whole glass becomes poisonous and therefore unfit for human consumption. Finance Bill of 2024 is an equivalent, Mr. Speaker, of a glass of water that has been poisoned with a drop of poison that makes it fully unsuitable for human consumption. This bill, Mr. Speaker, has had serious proposals which to a great extent were going to offend and if anything, kind of harass the very many people that depend on the economy of this country, Mr. Speaker. There is a talk about having climbed down on some of the proposals, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, having a proposal on what is basic, for example, what most of us eat, most of the Kenyan people in the common household, Mr. Speaker, consume bread. And therefore, proposing an increase in the same element of food becomes a disastrous idea to the very Kenyan, Mr. Speaker, that we purport to represent. Mr. Speaker, you'll agree with me that Finance Bill of 2023 had a projection of collecting close to over 200 billion, Mr. Speaker. But as it is, it was only able to realize close to 57% of its initial target. 2024, Mr. Speaker, this bill is poised to bring in close to 302 billion, Mr. Speaker. But from the experience of last year, it may be quite a big target to achieve, Mr. Speaker. Our question, therefore, is, why couldn't the government of the day decide to postpone any new increment of taxes for the time being, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that they are able to put steps in place to help them realize the shortfall they had last year, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, yesterday we saw what has never happened in this country, where a young generation, people in their early 20s, Mr. Speaker, came out to speak for themselves because they felt and believed that this House could not stand in the gap for them, Mr. Speaker. It is embarrassing, Mr. Speaker, to see our young people, Mr. Speaker, sacrificing themselves to go out on the streets because they have lost confidence, they have lost trust, and they have no hope in the institution of Parliament, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let it be known that should Kenyans suffer, the person to ask those hard questions is none other than members seated here this evening, who will be able to pass this bill, Mr. Speaker, which will add unnecessary burden, unnecessary heavy weight to our people, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, as Kenyans are watching this evening, I want every Kenyan to take charge. I want every Kenyan, Mr. Speaker, take note of what his member of Parliament will be speaking this evening with regard to this bill, Mr. Speaker. A member who goes on to support this bill, Mr. Speaker, is a member who desires that these people should not have life tomorrow. A member who goes on to support this draconian bill, Mr. Speaker, is a member that does not think good for his people. And therefore, I want to urge this great House, Mr. Speaker, that as we are standing today, let us say no to this bill so that we may have an opportunity to give hope to our people. Mr. Speaker, as it has been pointed out, there's a proposal, yes, to bring down fuel levy, to bring down motor vehicle circulation tax. But at the same report, Mr. Speaker, there's a new clause that indicates that fuel is supposed to increase by a whooping Kenya shillings, 7 shillings, Mr. Speaker. I want somebody to tell me, Mr. Speaker, how on earth can we therefore go on burdening that mamamboga, that hustler with an extra shilling at the pump, Mr. Speaker? This will be finishing our people, this will be shrinking our people, Mr. Speaker, and if anything, trying to freeze or to shrink the disposable income within their pocket. I therefore stand to oppose. Thank you.
Titus Lotte. Give him the mic.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to contribute to the Finance Bill 2024. Mr. Speaker, I would have rejected and voted no for this bill if I had rented my brain and my mind to the people that will misuse it. I would have voted no, but I have not rented my mind. Mr. Speaker, I would have voted no and rejected this bill if I was a tabula rasa with no brains to read, reason, and analyze. But I am not a tabula rasa. Mr. Speaker, the reason why I say that is I have looked at the document, the bill, and the proposal therein, and realized that everything that the people of Kachaliba sent me to represent them, all the punitive taxes have been removed. And so I will actually be mad to come here and start saying we reject this bill in totality. Mr. Speaker, I will not, because everything that affects Wanjiko, everything that affects the people that I represent have been removed. Mr. Speaker, the white man say that if you want to hide an information from a black person, put it in writing. And I have attested it today, Mr. Speaker, that everything that has been written here, nobody has read, but all insinuation that is coming from the members of the public that have been incited, and also some members of this parliament, are actually hearsays. They are innuendos. They are assumptions. So, Mr. Speaker, that is the reason why I say we probably need to unback this thing and get it out of writing to start even educating these people by saying, because if writing hides information from them, then let us talk to them so that they also see that the things they talk about, they are talking about 16% on bread, something that has been proposed for removal. They are talking about 25% for edible oil, something that has been proposed for removal. They are talking about mobile charges, something that has been proposed for removal. It is because it is written and they have not seen it. The last one, Mr. Speaker, why I support this is because of 5 things. One, because for the first time we employed 46,000 intern teachers, and we intend to confirm them. This country has suffered cases of unemployment. And if the bill is bringing 46,000 people onto our jobs, do we just want to throw it away? I believe let us also sympathize with those people that are unemployed that want to get a job. Because if they get a job, they are going to improve the economy of this country. Let us sympathize the 20,000 more that are coming into an internship this year so that they can be employed next year. Let us sympathize. If you say no, you are also saying no to the employment of these people. The next one is about the pastoralists that I represent. For the first time, pastoralists are supposed to be compensated for the losses of their livestock. For me, that's a big thing. Mr. Speaker, I support because of that. I also support again, Mr. Speaker, because of the fact that local manufacturing is supposed to be improved in this bill, Mr. Speaker. I know when I used to work as the CEO of women groups that were trying to form cottage industries that will manufacture the sanitary towels. They were killed because they were cheap imports of sanitary towels from China. Mr. Speaker, if you want to grow our economy, we will need to improve our manufacturing. And manufacturing, we do not need high quality at this point. Every country that has developed started with a low quality, and then with time they improve it. But at the end of it all, we will have employment in this country. So, Mr. Speaker, how do we improve our industries if we say that because they are cheap, they are low quality, we are not going to start? We have to start from somewhere. And finally, Mr. Speaker, as I sit down, I will support, because I'm not a tabula rasa, I will support because I have not been brainwashed. Mr. Speaker, I will support this bill as amended, because everything that is punitive has been removed. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. I support.
Thank you, Dr. Ochanda. Try.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, from onset and on the basis of the two documents that are in front of us, I want to oppose the bill, but I support the report as work in progress, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what is more critical here is the process at which we go through the stages of the budgetary process. Now, what there is, Mr. Speaker, if you look at these stages from February when we have the BPS, we get to April and May when we are doing the estimates, you get the stage where we are doing the treasury statement, the budget statement, and you get at the stage where we are discussing the revenue raising process. Mr. Speaker, these stages need to be tied. And as a house, because we have not tied them properly, that's where they are missing dots. There are dots along the stages. Mr. Speaker, if you look at now the BPS in relation to the budget, there are definitely different figures, which sometimes go beyond what the BPS expects. If you look at the estimates, Mr. Speaker, you realize that there are figures and there are proposals in terms of projects and activities that members are doing sometimes without the knowledge in terms of where are we going to raise the money. Mr. Speaker, what I'm trying to suggest, or I'm trying to say is that if we are able, for example, at the estimate stage, be able to be talking about the activities, talking about projects, and talking about what is to be funded, if at that time we have indicative sources of revenue, we have indicative figures, I think will be more useful to this country than where we are deliberately saying that the budget is fine, because there were very many good things in it, but then after a week, we are saying, no, we are not too sure where the money is going to come from, so it is bad. So, Mr. Speaker, this is exactly where I'm still insisting that those stages, we must get away with how to tie them up. There must be a string that ties them from the level 1 up to the stage when we are raising revenue. Beyond that, Mr. Speaker, we also need to look at when we are, this uproar. Why is it there's a lot of uproar in the last 2 years? We need to look at it in terms of if the traditional sources of revenue were working before and there were no issues, what is it that we need to do to work around the traditional sources of revenue such that we don't go creative ways which are bring a lot of issues, bring a lot of things that people don't understand, particularly when you get into this communication industry. There are a lot of new things. And when you move in to look for revenue across it, then there are definitely many things that must tie you to be in war with the young people, Mr. Speaker. So I think these are things that we really need to look at. The issue of, when we're looking at the issue of budget or no, the revenue, there are things that you can avoid. You can avoid taxes. I think the nation needs to be told also. But you can't evade. What is it that you can avoid? For example, not everybody else pays for taxes on beer. It is up to those who consume it. You can avoid that if we get into other avenues where there are things that are brought that are not conducive, are not good for you. You have the space not to get into them. Mr. Speaker, that's exactly what I'm saying. I support the report, but I don't support the bill because the report is still work in progress, and in the next number of hours, we are still working on how to improve on it, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you. That is his position, Maungu. You don't have to prod anybody. Member for Aldai.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support the finance bill.
Member for Nakuru Town East. What is out of order? Kaitanyi, take your seat.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I know everybody thinks that I'm moving under Standing Order number 95. Honorable Speaker, I beg to Standing Order number 30, hours of meeting, and specifically Section 3, 4, and Section 6. Honorable Speaker, Section 3 of Standing Order number 30 says, notwithstanding paragraph 1 and 2, the House may resolve A, to extend its sitting time. B, I don't want to go to B because it's another time and date, and C. 4, it says, a motion under paragraph 3A shall be moved at least 30 minutes before the time appointed for adjournment. And Honorable Speaker, now it's around 55 minutes to the time. And 6 says, upon the conclusion of all proceedings under paragraphs 2, 3, and 4, or 4 of this standing order, or upon an earlier completion or deferment of all business standing upon the order paper for the sitting, the Speaker shall adjourn the House without putting a question. Honorable Speaker, I know we are supposed to adjourn at 9. And under the standing order, we can be able, if we agree, to proceed. Honorable Speaker, 55 minutes only means 11 members of Parliament who have at 5 minutes. So if we can move to midnight, then it will give us more time for us to be able to debate. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Kaitani, carry on as I consult my clerks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I had earlier said that I stand to support the finance bill. And one thing we can see now in the country is that the conversation has changed to become politics of about a finance bill. My grandmother in the village and the Generation Z that we saw yesterday and everybody else, including us here, are talking about a finance bill, which is a step in the right direction. Why do I support the finance bill? One is the introduction of eco-tax. In around 2016, the ban on polythene was imposed in our country. And I think at that time, there was a lot of hue and cry on how packaging will become expensive and how cost of living will become expensive. But NEMA stood its ground and the effect of the polythene ban took effect. Today, our country is one of the cleanest cleanest country because we do not have polythene papers. But we have imported finished products that have polythene. And I think introducing the eco-tax will help us in managing that waste that we've already removed from our raw materials and all the way from our local manufacture where we do not introduce any polythene. Over and above the tax, the eco-tax, it is going to create employment because we are saying that we are putting eco-tax on imported finished products. And therefore, we encourage manufacturing, local manufacturing. And if we encourage local manufacturing, what we are expecting, Mr. Speaker, is that we will get employment for our very youth who currently do not have employment because most manufacturers would prefer to do local manufacture and not pay eco-tax as opposed to importing finished product that will attract an eco-tax. Also, the products or the raw materials that we have in our country that are currently exported for value addition outside the country will have a reverse where those raw materials will be value added and the persons or the people, the farmers and all those people who produce the raw material will get direct, not only direct employment also, but also direct income, therefore increasing the tax base. And not to mention, of course, the environment, because we will have improved on our environment and we will have extra revenue to deal with those wastages that come from finished imported products that already have eco and friendly packagings. I'm also supporting this bill because of the edible oil. About 3 weeks ago, we met manufacturers of the edible oil, and those manufacturers told us that if the taxes were going to be imposed on crude oil that they import to do the finishing of edible oil, then the cost of living would have gone up and the cost of edible oil would have gone up. I'm happy that the proposed amendments that we have in the finance bill has totally removed all the taxes that were going to be imposed on the edible oil. So therefore, that encourages employment, and of course, we have both the direct and indirect employment that comes from edible oil. The only thing I want to encourage is that these manufacturers look local and ensure that our farmers who are currently growing sunflower and canola are also considered in terms of production of crude vegetable oil, is in the conversion of edible oil, so that we don't just export labor or export revenue to countries that produce crude oil, yet we can grow it in our country. I think the other issue that we have that this finance bill is taking care of, Mr. Speaker, is that it is correcting some of the ills that has happened in previous finance acts. One of them being that the cost of money, for example, the taxes on per diems for employees has now been increased from 2,000 shillings to 5% of gross salary. That means that an employee will have more disposable income, and as well as the taxes on NHIF and housing levy has now been put as tax deductible. So therefore, we reduce the pay as you earn for the salaried employees, and that has allowed the salaried employee to have more disposable income, which is something that is a correction from the previous finance bills. And therefore, when we say that the finance bill is not should be disbanded, should be rejected, then some of these ills that are being corrected in this finance bill will not be benefited by the salaried employees. So with that, Honorable Speaker, I support the finance bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I give the next speaker, Honorable Kikaria, I have looked at your proposal. I had already given direction on the timings and the manner of debate of this bill. In fact, I had said we'll go up to 9:30, but the clerks advised me that today the House rises at 9. So we'll rise at 9. This is not the last day of debate. We are starting again tomorrow at 9:30. And we'll go on up to 1. Then we'll start at 2:30. And in the course of the afternoon, I can also note, sitting where I'm sitting, that other than the desire and the need, and justifiably so, for every member to speak to the bill, there is a lot of tedious repetitions. But I will still indulge every member who will get a chance to speak. Tomorrow afternoon, all things being equal, we will vote on the bill. Those of you with amendments, make sure you file them before 1 and tomorrow. And we'll give you direction on when, after voting in the afternoon, depending on how you vote, when we'll go to committee of the whole. I'll now give the floor to Lillian Kogo.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker. And you, as you rightfully said, Speaker, is that you have as well been there from 9 o'clock, and so have all of us. And this is because of the interest and how emotive this particular issue is. And I want to thank you for giving me an opportunity to put my voice and the voice of the great people of Rangwe constituency in this matter. I am reliably requested or required or commanded by the great people of Rangwe constituency to reject the bill, and I will surely do that because they are the ones who sent me to Parliament. But I must also, as an academic, do that with reasons which I should think Rangwe people are going to stand by. Honorable Speaker, at some point during debate, it was mentioned that every financial year, every year, would keep having financial bills. We are going to have a finance bill for this year. we are going to have a finance bill for 2025, 2026, or whatever time, we will continue having finance bills. But I want to say, Honorable Speaker, that as much as we want to have finance bills every year, it would be prudent, Honorable Speaker, that if we have an act, that act should be allowed or should be given time to operationalize. We run it for a time, Honorable Speaker, so that we are able to critically analyze or critically make observations on its goodness and on its badness. And even in the course of debate, Honorable Speaker, it was mentioned that probably the young people we are seeing rise up out there may not know really about this finance bill. But I can assure my colleague and my friend that these young people are well informed, Honorable KJ. At times they're even ahead of us with information. And these are people who know how to comb and dig information from wherever they are able to get it. So we should not undermine their capacity to be informed on matters that happen in Parliament. And in any case, Honorable Speaker, these are the next cohort of parliamentarians. So I think they're in the exercise of practicing, but they are also exercising their democratic right. They have the right to picketing. So if they do so as young people, we should give them room, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, having said that, I also want to appreciate what the committee has done. The committee listened and the committee made amendments. So we have on one hand the committee report, but also we have on one hand, the committee did proposals for amendments, and on another hand, we have the bill in itself. So that gives room for hope. And from the point where I stand, I may not be very good, Honorable Speaker, at estimating the age of the substantive chairperson of the Finance Committee. But I can literally guess, Honorable Speaker, that he's a young person. So I want to tell the chair of Finance Committee, my brother and the honorable member of Parliament, you are a young person and the young people are looking at your capability and your capacity to run a major docket like that. Let us not take things for granted. It is a career you are building. And I want to say that there are many issues to reject this bill on. When we talk about not bringing taxation or not making gluten-free bread taxable, what exactly do we mean? What is the science behind it? What is the issue on allergies about this? Was it medically informed? So if we start tearing and scrutinizing this bill, Honorable Speaker, to the extent that we tear it apart, all of it will be rejected. But for me and Rangwe people, Honorable Speaker, on the bill, I stand to reject.
No. Thank you, Lillian. Taitumu?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Taitumu and others, those who want to speak, stop menacing the Speaker with hand gestures. I can see you and I'll give you a chance to speak.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. I arise to support the bill. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the committee. First of all, when I went through the document, I saw 203 entities were given an opportunity to present their views in connection or in relation to the bill. The committee listened to their views objectively and made various adjustments to the clauses that were punitive to the Kenyans and mainly the Mamboga and other citizens of this country. Mr. Speaker, I have heard you make several pronouncements that those who have amendments, they tender the amendments before 1 tomorrow. This is to say that the bill is tendered, or the bill is brought to the parliament so that the members can get an opportunity to make an amendment and not to reject that are meant for the posterity of this country. Mr. Speaker, this government inherited and disjointed education structure that requires massive and colossal amounts of money to make it raw. One, Mr. Speaker, 46,000 teachers are about to transition from the interns to JSS to permanent and personal basis. Mr. Speaker, the clauses that were unbarred were dropped, others were amended to make sure that this bill benefits the citizens of this country. Young Kenyans have jammed our phones with messages of reject. But when you engage them by asking them to expound on the reasons as to why we should reject, some go mute. Majority of them go mute. The reason is that they have been confused. They have been poisoned because the truth is being laced with poison. But the truth of the matter, Mr. Speaker, is that this bill is progressive. It is progressive in the sense that punitive clauses that would have affected these Kenyans were removed. For instance, the motor circulation tax was removed. This one would have drastically affected the Mambaboga, anybody who uses the vehicle, those who transport the cabbages, the tomatoes and the rest, or those who use even provox and other modes of transportation to make sure that their merchandise reach the market. Mr. Speaker, this is the first time when the salaried people will have pay as you earn deducted after the statutory deductions are removed. This one will have a positive index on their net pay. And for this reason, it shows that this bill is good. Taxes on mobile phones transfers, they have remained as they were, and they have not been handled as it is seriously exaggerated. On VAT on financial services for foreign exchanges, Mr. Speaker, those transactions, those exchanges have also remained as they were. VAT on bread, Mr. Speaker, it was very contentious. But in the wisdom of committee, through the advice and the democratic space that it gave the stakeholders of this country, the experts, the professionals, and even faith-based organizations, they saw it worthy to have it removed. The eco levy and other levies that were not necessary to be levied on Kenyans were removed. Mr. Speaker, this country requires money.
Thank you, Taitumu. Member for Kiminini.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Representing the good people of Kiminini, we know that this finance bill is supposed to be a mechanism to raise funds for the government programs. However, if the government widens the taxation mechanism that affects the people, then I have a right to represent my people and indicate where it's not right. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, we must reduce and rationalize our expenditure. We must live within our means. Looking at this particular bill, Mr. Speaker, we completely left out the principle of a sovereign state whereby the Bretton Woods are the ones dictating what we have to put in our budget. Someone sitting in Washington and the IMF does not really understand the pain that the local Kenyan goes through by inflicting a specific taxation on bread, things like sanitary pads, an example. And I would like to say, Mr. Speaker, it is also important that the templates that have been provided by the World Bank, which have worked in other countries like Croatia or wherever, using those templates in Kenya, it cannot work. So it is very clear that, Mr. Speaker, and again, looking at the other side of the House, if you look at something like diapers, you expect that having mostly the younger generation on that side will take care of basic items like diapers. This morning, Mr. Speaker, I saw the presentation by the majority leader, which listed 4 companies that are producing diapers and even sanitary pads. But figures don't lie. If you look at those 4 companies, they are not able to meet the demand of the sanitary pads or the diapers that are produced in this republic, meaning that majority of those items that are used in this republic are actually imported. What I would have expected from this bill, Mr. Speaker, is for the bill to also state good mechanism where we're encouraging even manufacturers to come in and manufacture locally. Basically, what this bill has done is to try and protect some local manufacturers and, of course, not promoting competency or proactiveness. We should not, in the spirit of protecting local manufacturers, try to put more taxes, especially on critical items like this. And Mr. Speaker, this reminds me in 1775, between the month of April and May, where we had, within the month, we had over 300 riots, which were actually the bread riots. And yesterday, we've seen actually people hitting the streets because of that. And I'll not be surprised, Mr. Speaker, if we don't panel beat this and ensure that we have a good financial bill whereby we will make history as the first country, not just on the continent, but globally, where we will have riots of diapers or sanitary clothes. So, Mr. Speaker, my expectation from this presentation, we having a lot of minerals. We've got iron ore, we've got copper, graphite, magnesia, nickel, all this we have. I would expect that there are smarter ways of seeing on how we can really utilize and take advantage of our natural resources. An example, Mr. Speaker, I'd also expect that on items that are causing some social disorder like alcohol, an example, we focus on such items where we put even 100% taxes. But touching on items like bread, like sanitary pads, that one I think, Mr. Speaker, really creates a lot of fault on this particular bill. So at this point, Mr. Speaker, I oppose this bill. Thank you.
Timothy Toroitich, member for Marakwet West. Give him the mic.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to contribute on this very important bill. Honorable Speaker, from the onset, I rise to support the letter, the spirit, and the intent of this particular piece of proposed legislation. Honorable Speaker, but with a rider, I support the same, Honorable Speaker, as proposed by the committee. Honorable Speaker, the reason why I say I support the bill with the amendments by the committee is for the reason that, Honorable Speaker, the bill as it was brought to this House is a bill that was in the mind of the executive. Honorable Speaker, the reason why this House is given time to interrogate a bill is so that we can get the input of the members of parliament here and also get the input of the members of the public through public participation. Honorable Speaker, when the Committee of Finance went to collect the views of the public, Honorable Speaker, they never went to collect the views of Kenya Kwanza public. They never went to collect the views of Azimio supporters. They never went to collect the views of individuals. They went to collect the views of collective Kenyans. Honorable Speaker, if there was no amendment to this bill, personally, I would have opposed this bill. But because of the amendments that has been reflected in the report of the committee, I will support the bill purely based on the proposed amendments by the committee. Honorable Speaker, there were acrimonious, there were contentious clauses in that particular bill. But Honorable Speaker, courtesy of the amendment, the members of the public were told about the 2.5%. Honorable Speaker, that proposed amendment by the committee is the one I support. Honorable Speaker, I have read the report in its entirety, the voluminous report. Honorable Speaker, the 2.5% on the issue of tax on motor vehicle has been deleted pursuant to the opinion of the public. Honorable Speaker, I commend the committee led by Kimani Kuria. Honorable Speaker, they said that the 2.5% was based on the Income Tax Act. Honorable Speaker, they said the Income Tax Act only deals with income and not assets as the motor vehicle. Honorable Speaker, that is the reason why I support. Honorable Speaker, second reason. This year, the Committee on Budget proposed certain fundamental amendments, and they brought a budget for this House. One of the issues led by Ndini Nyoro was the issue of equality in terms of allocation of resources insofar as electricity is concerned. Honorable Speaker, every constituency was given 50 million. I saw my friends from the other aisle supporting that proposal. But Honorable Speaker, the question is this: how do we fund? How do we get the 50 million if we don't pass this finance bill? Honorable Speaker, the issue of CDF, all of us from this aisle, from the opposition, supported the increment in CDF. Honorable Speaker, if we don't have enough money to support that increment, how shall we, as a country or as members of parliament, get that particular funding? Honorable Speaker, on the issue of JS internships, Honorable Speaker, there has been demonstration outside there. The internship teachers have been saying they want to be confirmed. Honorable Speaker, I sit in the Committee of Education and Research of this House. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Speaker, in this budget, we have allocated...
Yes, what is the point of order from your neighbor?
Mr. Speaker, I rise on standing order number 91. Is it in order for the honorable member to mislead the House that the budget proposed an increment on CDF, yet we know CDF is a percentage of the collection?
Honorable Speaker, it is not rocket science that the constituencies are receiving depending on the number of wards, but this time round we have an increment of 30 million per constituency. Honorable Speaker, that is not rocket science. It is an increment that has been reflected in the budget, and therefore it must be funded. Finally, Honorable Speaker, even though I support this bill, there has been hue and cry outside there. Honorable Speaker, it is incumbent upon the executive to ensure that money collected in this year's financial bill, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Timothy. Wanjala Raphael.
But my card is here. The card is here.
Wanjala shall be heard in silence so that he can be able to be silent when others speak.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I beg to oppose this motion. Mr. Speaker, sir, this finance bill of 2024, National Assembly Bill number 30 of 2024, Mr. Speaker, I am also cognizant to the fact that this bill went through the first reading on 13th May 2024 and was committed to the departmental committee. on Finance and National Planning for Consideration Committee and reporting to the House under the provision of Standing Order number 127. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm also cognizant of the fact that this bill has 65 clauses and seeks to amend laws on matters such as the Income Tax Act, Cap 47, 1, the Value Added Tax, Cap 476, the Excise Duty Act, the Tax Procedures Act, Cap 469, among others. And Mr. Speaker, you have heard some members saying that if we oppose this bill and it collapses, they say then we will not be able to collect taxes. I want to inform the members that if this bill collapses, we already still have a bill in force of 2023 that will continue. What we are only doing is that we are amending. It's not that there is no another bill. We are just amending the previous bill. Therefore, when this one collapses, members, there is nothing that has gone wrong. We will still continue. And that is what some of us are praying for. Because, Mr. Speaker, you are also aware that last financial year, 2023, we have a bill that was supposed to collect over 350 billion. Now, in this one, 2024, we are proposing, 2024-2025, to get additional revenue of 302 point something billion. But even the other 352, Mr. Speaker, we were not able to collect. So I don't know why this government of Kenya Kwanza, they are too over-ambitious to do what they may not be able to attain. Mr. Speaker, sir, even though these measures might be part of the general effort to enhance domestic resources, mobilization and reducing dependence on foreign aid, as they have always said, and loans, and yet, to us, we know very well that this is the government that within less than 2 years, they have borrowed more than any other government, although they claim not to have been borrowing. It should be done with the sensitivity required and the necessary understanding of the economic situation that Kenyans, situation of the common mwananchi is already shouldering a heavy cost of living in this country.
Member for Changamwe, what's out of order?
Is it in order for the Honorable MP, who is actually a member who has been here for quite a long time, he's actually reading instead of debating?
Thank you, Honorable Member for Changamwe. I was actually about to bring it to the attention of Honorable Raphael Wanjala that it is out of order to read a speech in the guise of a debate. And you are a very senior member of the House. You know the standing orders. You can make reference to some aid memoir, but you cannot read a speech the way you are reading a speech. It is not maiden either. Yes, go ahead and debate the bill. Wanjala.
Mr. Speaker, actually, I'm not reading, I'm referring.
You are reading, but go on now.
Mr. Speaker, and you also didn't ask him which standing order. That is the biasness we are talking about.
Yes, Kimani, order, Wanjala.
Is it in order, Honorable Speaker, for the Honorable Wanjala to misinform this House that even if the budget, even if the finance bill were not to be passed, then the budget process would still continue? And he quotes the Constitution. So, Article 220 of the Constitution, Honorable Speaker, on the form and content and timing of budgets, says 1, budgets of the national and county government shall contain A, estimates of revenue and expenditure differentiating between recurrent and development expenditures, B, proposals for financing any anticipated deficit for the period to which they apply. Therefore, it is a constitutional requirement that when a budget is tabled, there must be the supply side of that expenditure as proposed on Article 220 of our Constitution.
Yes, Wanjala.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not opposed to what he is saying. What we are doing, we are just amending. And when you are amending and a section you have amended collapses, the other act still continues. That's what I said. These are just newcomers. They don't know how these things happen.
My husband.
Mr. Speaker, sir, we know this government promised a lot, just like the previous governments have been promising Kenya that there will be industrialization in this country. And yet, there's nothing they're doing towards industrializing this country, but they have kept on telling us stories and they keep on collecting money, a lot of money, and we don't even see the value of that money where it goes, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, even yesterday, what we saw in this country, Mr. Speaker, you know very well some of us were in the struggle from 1992, and we did away with the police state. But yesterday, what happened in this country was a police state, where police were mobilized to beat innocent young boys and girls who are just asking for the right, who had a right to picket, to demonstrate, and to petition. Where are we taking this country? And yet, we are proud that our generation is now the one that is ruling. Yet, they are taking us back to where we came from, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to ask the current government that it should not harass Kenyans when they ask for what is right for them. They should consider and look at. They should not just thump. They should listen to members of parliament. This committee is just...
Thank you, Honorable Wanjala. And the lesson you learned today is you can see how nice it is to speak without anybody heckling at you. You have enjoyed speaking today, so give that enjoyment to others when they speak. Member for Nyeri Town.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to support the finance bill as amended by the proposal or by the report of the Finance Committee. And I urge the chair of the Finance Committee to ensure that by 1 o'clock tomorrow, all the amendments that the committee has proposed are rightfully before this House. Mr. Speaker, I have spoken to the people of Nyeri Town who elected me. I started with the Archbishop Muheria of the Nyeri Archdiocese, who even gave me the report that he presented before the Committee of Finance during the public participation. And Mr. Speaker, I have spoken...
Order, Madenge. What is out of order? Honorable... Is it Masara?
Yes, yes.
Yes, Honorable Masara.
Mr. Speaker, the member is out of order because we cannot call, I'm a Catholic by faith. The bishop cannot come and confirm to us in this house that the member of parliament talked to him. So, under Standing Order 91.
Order, Honorable
Mr.
Masara.
Speaker.
Order. Do you have any information to the contrary? He says he spoke to a bishop in his constituency. What's wrong with that?
Mr. Speaker, under 91.
Order, Masara, you are out of order.
Okay.
He's not even using the bishop as an authority to advance his argument. He's just saying he spoke to him. Go on, Madenge.
Honorable Speaker, I have spoken to my constituents in the market in Nyeri town. I have spoken to my constituents in Gatito location. I have spoken to my constituents in Rolengo location. And I have listened to their proposals and their objections to the finance bill as originally tabled in this House. Their concerns have been adequately addressed in the report tabled by the Finance Committee in this House. And as a result, Mr. Speaker, all the JSS teachers in the 43 primary schools in the constituency who had been requesting me for permanent, for PNP employment, I can today proudly, in this House, confirm to them that through the funds raised using this finance bill, their employment is guaranteed. I can confirm to the doctors who went on strike in this country over money for interns and their collective bargaining agreement that was not implemented, that the promise given to them will be funded through this finance bill. I can confirm to the coffee farmers of Nyeri and Mount Kenya region that the debt write-off that has been promised by the government, the funds will be raised using this finance bill. Mr. Speaker, the executive brought their proposal to this House. This House has the mandate to look at the proposals by the executive and either agree with them, reject them, or amend. It is incumbent among us tomorrow, if you do give direct that way, Mr. Speaker, that we exercise our mandate as a House and contribute towards the advancement of this country in terms of the budget that we passed in this House. Mr. Speaker, we started by passing the budget policy statement that indicated that we would have increased expenditure this financial year. Where did we expect the money to come from? If, when the proposals are brought to us, then all we are doing is saying reject in its totality. A lot of the young men who sent messages to my phone, I engaged them and asked them to specify the particular sections of the bill that they wanted me to say no to. A lot of them just kept saying reject in totality, meaning they had actually not interacted with the document, but they have been fed to believe that this finance bill had nothing good for this country. On the contrary, none of these members has rejected the increase in the CDF allocation in the constituencies. None of these members has rejected the employment of the JSS teachers in their constituencies. None of these members has objected to the payment of the doctors' salaries as promised during their strike. Honorable Speaker, I sit in the Health Committee. We have proposed to implement UHC. None of these members have opposed the provision of improved health services for our people. Honorable Speaker, I support.
Yes, Mwango, what is the problem?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I want to seek your clarity on whether we are discussing the budget or the finance bill.
There are contemporaneous processes. TJ Kajwang.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When many people have spoken, as a ranking member, I do not want to repeat what people have said here.
So you surrender the...
Nor do I want to, not surrender, I will not surrender at the time. But Nor do I want to bore you with a lot of unnecessary information. But Mr. Speaker, sir.
Yes, Honorable Zambia.
On a point of
What
order.
is out of order? Hold your horses. Kajwang. Give Honorable Zambia the mic. Give him the mic. Give him the mic. You can. Pardon? There you are.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'm not out of order, but I wanted to remind you that I've been seated here since morning, and when I checked in the screen there, it was almost number 2.
Order,
so I'm worried that
order, Honorable Zambia, take your seat. I have also been sitting here since morning, Honorable Zambia. So have all these members. This system has been malfunctioning. It brings your names, then it erases them. So I have also been exercising discretion, sometimes to balance the house, gender, youth, and so on. You will speak. If we don't speak today, I'll be here at 9:30 in the morning. And I can give you an undertaking. If you are here, I'll start with you. Kajwang? No idea.
Mr. Speaker, Article 221 that was quoted by the chair of the Finance Committee is very clear that the financial documents must be before the House 2 months before the time that they relate. When you look at 221, in fact, starting from 220, 221, and 223, you get the impression that the Constitution anticipated that these documents would have to be reconsidered in one set. Now, there was a BPS which was presented to this House, in which the minister expressed the fundamentals upon which this budget was drawn, and therefore the Finance Act or the Finance Bill. Now, when you see that Finance Bill was predicated upon the BPS, when now we see the report of the Finance Committee, you will see that almost 18 articles or clauses are designed to be changed. And you can do the math, and my friend was telling me that it is something in the tune of 300 or so billion shillings. The point I make is that the alterations which are being done, whether right or wrong, are such that they fundamentally and substantially change the architecture of the financial bill, which was predicated upon the BPS. Now, that is a constitutional and public finance construct that we have to call the minister and even we as National Assembly, because this is our process, the budgeting process. That is the first point I want to put. And so when we say that the details are good, or we are changing things and so on, then think of, if anything else, a constitutional construct which must guide the budgeting process. And members of the public are entitled that we do good governance and follow the constitutional principles, number one. Number two, somebody said, and this is the only point I want to repeat, somebody saying it is giving with the right hand and taking from the left hand. You can still work the maths and see the amount that is said to be given out, in this bread tax and so on, which is being made right by the committee, you will still see that in actual fact, that amendment which is seeking to introduce RLMF is substantial enough to absorb all these things that they are bringing. And let me tell you, Kenyans, you are not going to pay fuel. It is not going to be more expensive. What these people are timing is your electricity. It is your electricity. It is that amount which shows every day on your electricity bill, which supports the extraction of power, generation of power. That is what this thing will be all about. And so when you think about all these things, it is, and Honorable Nikal told me, and it was from very good authority from his own wife, who's a professor also, vice chancellor. He told me that this budget is a decoy. It is a decoy. It is made to look like, it is like a glass. And yet deep inside it, it has done even worse than it should have been. But now you are being told that we are very, we like the public, we listened to you, and we have changed. Nothing has changed. And the last thing is, when we will come to the appropriation, the only two things which will happen, either they will amend the Appropriation Act to be able to absorb this, or they will borrow more. And so Kenyans will be even in a deeper shit. Oh, no, that is not parliamentary. I'm sorry. Parliament will be in a deeper hole. That hole, that big hole, that you...
Thank you. Munyori. Give the mic to Honorable Munyori.
Munyoro. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I appreciate the honor of getting this opportunity to speak. First, Honorable Speaker, let me say I'm a member of the Finance and National Planning Committee. And we did a lot of work to come up with these amended proposals for the finance bill. And I would also like to appreciate our secretariat because they do a lot of work. They've had sleepless nights. We have one of them here who's he's been here since morning. And I rise to support these amended proposals for the finance bill. One of the reasons is very simple. I've listened to a lot of people, even members of parliament, who do not seem to understand that the bill comes from Treasury to Parliament. So it's not our bill. What our role is as members of the Finance Committee is to receive the bill, do public participation, and then incorporate that when we are writing the report. And when we are writing the report, we go clause by clause. So each clause that is in the bill, we've gone through it, we've looked at the messages and information that we got from the public, and then we are able to do the report. One of the reasons I support the bill is the issue of we had issues with avocado farmers from the last finance bill when they were told that they should need to register for items. And I'm happy that clause 51 and by extension clause 57 is coming to rectify that process so that any farmer who is having a gross turnover of less than $1 million shillings per year is not eligible to register for items. I'm also happy that we've removed tax on craft paper because our tea uses this paper for packaging. And that will go a long way in ensuring that our tea is competitive and farmers get their rightful money. The other issue, I think, is the issue of allowable, that is the housing levy, social health insurance, and NSSF, which were previously not allowable, and they are now allowable in the pay slips. And if you look at your pay slips, initially you'd get the payee before you get those three deducted. So that means that they'll be deducted first, and this is for all employees, which is putting more money because the payee will be less there. The issue of borders. I'm happy that we'll be able to assemble our bodabodas here. And I know, because that is a very large community, and we've been here discussing helping the people who are at the bottom of the pyramid, is that we expect that the cost of bodabodas will be less, and that they'll be able to encourage more of youngsters who want to go in self-employment, get the same income. When you look at the appropriations bill, I think it is fair, because I know in this parliament we're able to know that we will get money for our Mau Mau roads which have stalled. And for my people in my constituency, I think this is a very good thing, and that's why I intend to pass the bill. I know we've also been allocated money for electrification, which is 50 million for each constituency, and I'm happy that as well for my constituency. I know we are also getting more money for the coffee cherry fund, and I think for all coffee farmers, this is a plus, because we need to get to support our farmers, and this is coming as a result of the finance bill. So without the finance bill, I think we cannot be able to do what we are planning to do. Lastly, Honorable Speaker, the issue of KRA, there was a proposal by KRA, and I've had it mentioned here. We've proposed that the KRA cannot be able to access data, and this is our report. So there is a member of parliament who said something about the same, and I would like to say that in the proposal, we rejected that, where they wanted to access all our data, all our information, our electricity bills. They wanted to access everything. And I say, we need to go through this report. Lastly, I had a very good proposal from a member of parliament who is proposing that because you are trying also, when you are doing the report, to know how you can be able to differentiate between hatching eggs and table eggs. That proposal, you need to bring that amendment. Bring it to the House so that you know if the people who are using the hatched eggs, they are able to show that they use the eggs for hatching and for chicks. So I wish you bring it, and I know as members who are reasonable, we'll be able to adopt it. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Zambia. Give Honorable Zambia the mic.
Give me the mic.
Pardon?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving this opportunity to contribute to this finance bill. Honorable Speaker, let me first start by appreciating the Finance Committee. So I may not be a good economist, but I'm a good mathematician. Honorable Speaker, the essence of this bill is to make the life of Kenyans bearable. Honorable Speaker, I want to consider, we appreciate that they considered the motor vehicle tax, edible oil tax. Considering that amendment, which brings to around 76 billion. Honorable Speaker, as I have told you, I'm not bad in mathematics. This certain amount of money have been hidden in another aspects of taxing Kenyans more. Honorable Speaker, by adding 70%, 7 shillings in fuel levy, it means that, Honorable Speaker, already we moved from 8% to 16% in VAT in terms of fuel
Honorable
levy.
Zambia, you have 3.5 minutes left. So tomorrow morning we'll start with you. Members, you may be upstanding. Honorable members, order. Honorable members, it's now 9 p.m. The House stands adjourned until tomorrow, Thursday, 20th June 2024, at 9:30 a.m.